as a new business, like it is like you're kind of in a popularity contest. You want people to see your face, you want to have touch points with them, and you don't want to just exist on a screen. So especially if you're in a smaller community, like your ability to just show up and people can really feel you and know you is going to help establish that trust factor. Hello, and welcome to Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. This podcast is dedicated to chiropractors who are in the seasons of launching and building their practice. Join myself, Dr. Lona, and my co-host, Dr. Bobby, as we have conversations each week as it relates to building the practice of your dreams. And remember, you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. We're here to lead you on the way.
Welcome back, team, to the Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast, where we come to you every single week with practical and actionable tips about building your practice and building it to be remarkable. With the amazing Dr. Lona Cook and myself, Dr. Bobby. Dr. Lona, we've got an exciting topic today. I know that this is a topic that's very dear to your heart, and it's something that you've been speaking a lot on masterminds and on coaching sessions recently about helping people grow their practice. What is it that we're going to be unpacking on today's episode?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about outside networking today and how to really leverage your existence in your community to build trust and know that you're in the long haul with these relationships. So it's a marketing conversation, but also realizing that you are a leader in your community and you're going to want to steward these relationships in a way where you know that likely you're going to practice in this area for possibly decades, right? Or your practice is going to have influence in this area for decades, right? So sometimes I feel like when we're talking about marketing, it's all about getting the new people in the door today, right? And it's like, yes, of course we all want that. And at the same time, know that some of these seeds you're planting right now are seeds that aren't going to sprout for potentially years. And that's okay. You're still planting them and you're nourishing them. And some of them are going to be really, really rich for you. You just can't see when that's, seed is going to sprout above the soil. So recognizing networking is one of those things that's going to harvest for you for many, many years if you steward it well.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about when you're marketing your office that there's internal, external, and digital opportunities. So this very much, if we double click now, falls under external opportunities. So probably many of us have heard the saying, and I'm going to be the one that says it right now, and that is that your net worth will be directly proportional to your net work. Another one of these sayings that sounded so amazing and left me dumbfounded in the beginning about okay, well, what do you mean? Maybe it's just my brain. I don't know. Am I the only person that thinks like that when they hear these things?
I like it though. I want to hear what went on in your brain when you were questioning.
Last time I was very much, people when they say keep doing the same thing is definition of insanity, and then other people say focus and keep doing the same. I'm like, which one is it? They're contradicting each other. And this is another one. It's like, how will my net worth be proportional to my net worth? Won't my net worth be proportional to how hard I work, and how much income I earn, and how well I invest that income so it compounds over time, right? But then I started to get it. And I started to understand that if you look at business after a while, you start to recognize there's this thing called the 80-20 rule, and 80% of your outcomes come from 20% of your inputs. And those 20% of your inputs ultimately directly proportional to people that you meet or systems that you set up. And those 20% inputs equal 80% outputs. And then those outputs, many of the time, are represented as cash, as dollars. And cash and dollars are able to then be invested, so you build your net worth. And that's not just monetary net worth. That's an example of monetary, but you can talk about personal fulfillment net worth. There's multiple areas of net worth as well, right? So I know this is something you do masterful, especially, I don't know many people, if anyone at all, that's managed to build an office inside of a school. I know we were talking about this before, and that is a prime example of networking done well. So well that you have an office inside of schools. And so why don't you talk to us a little bit about how do you do this? What are some tips around it, Lona? What's your mindset behind it first of all before we get into all of it?
I think my mindset is what I shared earlier, which is like this, I am going to steward relationships in a way that I know that it's not my job to control when certain things come into fruition. My job is to like be who I am and share like what our office and our mission is, and people won't know if they don't know who you are, right? So when I'm talking to newer docs, let's say you're a launch doc or you're newly in build, you know, this idea that you like opened your doors and people are going to just flock to you. I think we've all talked about this, Bobby. Like, that's not going to happen. They have to know who you are. And the way that they're going to find out who you are is by external marketing and digital marketing, right? So, you know, depending on the size area you're in, and also the amount of time you have to do this, like one of the things I tell new docs to do is go knock doors, go business to business and introduce yourself. Like, learning the lay of the land around you is never a bad thing, to realize who the companies are that are doing business in the same area as you, who your referral network may be, where it's like, well, there's a yoga studio over here and I want to know who owns it. I want to know the yoga teachers, or I want to know the massage therapists over in this business. This is part of like networking, is learning who's who in your town. Obviously, there's other ways to do that, by going to some of the pre-established meetings that are out there, Chamber, BNI, Optimist, Rotary. And those are all great places too, to understand who's like the movers and shakers that are attending these meetings. But there's a lot of people who aren't showing up in those meetings, that if you would go to them and just promptly introduce yourself. That's all I'm asking people to do, is walk into those doors and say, hey, I'm Lona, and I'm opening up a chiropractic practice right up the street. And I just wanted to meet my neighbors. And this is, you know, what we're really excited about is helping our community heal. You know, like, it can be as simple as that sometimes, to just open that first conversation and then start to build, as Bobby's talked to us about, your list of emails and phone numbers you've collected, so you can start inviting them to things. So it can be this one-on-one, especially if you're someone who is feeling like, oh my gosh, giving a talk that's so outside my comfort zone. We'll start just going and having one-on-one conversations, inviting people to coffee and learning about who's doing business in your area. And when you find someone that you're very like, maybe synchronistic with, like their message and your message, it's like, all right, well, this might be one where now we can really leverage each other's network. And that's really where that masterminding starts to come in, of like, well, you want to build your business and I want to build my business. What can we do together? And that's where that networking takes, you know, root in a way that it can keep growing in ways that maybe you never would have dreamed when you walked into their door and introduced yourself the first time. So if you're a new practitioner, that's where I would start.
Yeah. And that's what synergy is, right? Synergy by definition is two forces coming together for growth, right? Synergizing, coming together. So what I'd love to learn a little bit more about how your mind thinks about, so when it comes to networking. So okay, so I'm a practice in a local area. I want to network. Where do I start? What do I do? Like, do I join a BNI? Is that what you're telling me? Or do I go and meet businesses? And then on the back of that, how do I do it? Like, do I sit down and Google, and do I find all the places that might be like-minded with me? Do I go and find the gyms? What's your approach to this when you start networking?
Yeah. And Bobby, I love that you're so tactical about this. So I don't think my brain works that way usually, but how I approached it is, I had a whiteboard that was in like my office, and I put a map up of my local like city limits area. And I knew also like obviously where my practice was on that map. And I first just started to work around the streets that were closest to my business. And I'd walk in anywhere and just introduce myself. I didn't worry about if it was going to be awkward, because I thought I can talk to people. And maybe being a bartender growing up and some different things, I just learned to talk to everybody. It was like, they're just people. It doesn't matter if they're the person cutting hair, or the person, you know, pumping gas, or the person that is your waitress, or they're the exec. You know, I can say hello and just tell them who I am. And so and then I just come back to the practice with whatever I grabbed from whoever I'd met that day. And I made it a game. Like, I can't go to lunch until I've met 5 people. And so it didn't matter who those 5 people really were. It just needed to be 5 new people. Obviously, I would, if you have limited time, try and meet the business owners first, I believe, because they have the most influence and they know the most people in your area. So I would start there and then grab their information. So, you know, even if you talk to their assistant and you didn't get to meet the person that owned, you just grab the assistant's card and, you know, let them know, like, I'm going to invite you to my grand opening, or I'm going to invite you to an event that's coming up. So you're letting them know, like, we're going to be in contact. And if you had a good conversation with someone, follow back up, right? Like, follow back up. Most people do not do that next step. And I think that's what sets a lot of people apart is they don't take the time to go outside their four walls of their practice and meet people. B, they don't follow back up, and C, they don't keep inviting them to people or to things that they have going on. And so the compounding effect of this like action step that you did to get uncomfortable never actually realizes, because they, if they didn't have someone that said, oh, I'd love to come into your practice after their first time meeting you, that somehow that wasn't valuable, that you established a connection there.
I thought you said you weren't tactical. No tactics, Lana.
Well, I just like my brain doesn't go there right away. And then I realized I had to get organized around this, like, so that I realized which parts of town had I made it to and where did I need to spend my time.
Nice. I love it. I love the tactic that you had there. So you got a map, you put your practice in the map, you drew a radius around the map, and you're like, all right, these are some of the businesses that fall within that radius. Let's go and start meeting people, correct?
Yes. And then I draw on the whiteboard where I went and any action steps that need to happen. So if I had a good conversation in a business that I thought, okay, we could circle back and do a talk here, or maybe I need to drop off some like, maybe it's a business where I want to drop off like some healthy snacks and like some sort of like offer to the like their entire employee base. I made a note so that that action step just didn't fall, through the cracks, right?
Yeah. Look, humans are relational. We are relational creatures. We love having relationships with people that we resonate with and that we align with from a core values point of view. I'm always a fan of looking at success leaving clues. And let's have a look at some of the biggest successes and repetitive successes. In fact, I'm pretty sure that right now inside the US, at the time of recording this, there's preparation for a big election happening at the end of the year. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Now, we're not going to go down the realm of politics. However, there is something to be learned from both parties here. And I see the same thing here in Australia. When parties are now rallying support and when they're building their network of people that are going to be voting for them and people that are going to be aligned with them, they don't just, these parties don't just go, okay, we're going to build a really robust social media awareness campaign. So our main guy or our main lady can just actually sit at home and we'll do all that digitally and we'll reach everyone on their mobile phones. Do they do that? Yes, they do. Do they just do that? No, they don't. Okay. What else do they do? Well, they do a plethora of things. I'm not going into detail, right? And I probably don't even know it all. But in fact, I absolutely don't know it all. But one thing that I do know that they do is they get out there and what's the old saying? They shake hands and kiss babies, right?
And door
Right?
knock. Yes.
And door knock, exactly. So you see these rallies that get organized. You see, okay, here in Australia, I know when our elections are going on, they show the heads of the parties going out to schools and meeting school kids and, meeting Indigenous communities and leaders of Indigenous communities. And they go and they meet different groups. They, leaders of the mothers group. They meet leaders of, socially challenged people group, right? All sorts of different groups. They go and meet. I know that members of government and state go and meet head of chiropractic groups, go and meet head of physical therapy groups, go and meet help of different groups. Okay, they are doing that. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there's an election campaign, and in that campaign, it's a crazy schedule where it's almost like every day or every 2 days or every 3 days, it's a new community meeting, greeting, and greeting. Yes. And that is the process of mass networking done at scale.
Yep. We have a chiropractor who's actually in our local legislation here. So we door knock for him as a state association. So I've done this quite a few times and they are going door to door to established relationships. So you're spot on, Bobby. Like there's a reason why they do that. And as a new business, like it is like you're kind of in a popularity contest. You want people to see your face. You want to have touch points with them and you don't want to just exist on a screen. So especially if you're in a smaller community, like your ability to just show up and people can really feel you and know you is going to help establish that trust factor, as well as the fact if they understand like you're doing business in the community, right? Because we want to do business with people who do business with us, right? And so there is an element there of like, you get me, you get this community, I know you're here for the good, right? And then that's where that referral network starts to really take off.
Mm-hmm. Yep, spot on the mark. Love it. So that's a great example of it, guys. Super good example of it. So tell us now, all right, so what's some good steps that I could take in the back of this? I can share my experience with this, but you're masterful. You've done it a lot more than what I have. Why don't you take us through some technical stuff on it? So I'm in an office now and I'm looking at, doing this. What advice would you give?
My advice would be stay the course, just like so many things. It's not something that you're going to just do it a few times. You need to like do it in mass, right? So like when I said one of the things that I put on my to-do list before I could leave for lunch was I had to go meet a certain amount of people every week, right? And then I also had to follow through on those steps. So if you're just starting, you're really just establishing who's even my network going to be. Once you start to have patients coming into the office, know that they obviously are networked in places too. So you can start to leverage now this internal network for their network. And that's still networking, right? So if you know, like, well, I've got this great patient who's the office manager for a dental clinic, and I would love to go in and speak to them, like use that network then to like ask for the next thing, right? It's like, this is going to now be a give and take. I want to make this beneficial for you, as well as I obviously am going to come in here and share what I do because I want people to know about it. And if you're, kind of putting your hands in the air and showing you like, I have nothing to hide, like this is truly my passion to help people. So of course I'm going to talk about it. That's part of where then just like that authenticity comes through in your relationships and that trust factor keeps showing. If it's always about you selling, then people are going to be like, no, I don't want to necessarily have this relationship. But if you're like, no, I'm here to help, and at the same time, this is what I do and this is how I can help, then that was going to take you further in that relationship, when you can realize like, I need to listen and learn what they need in order so I can show you like how I could help, right?
So let me tell you a story. Early on, when we were launching our practice, we were very big on JVs, with joint ventures, with joint venture relationships, aka networking. And so this was back in the day, previous to social media advertising. So probably like in my first year of practice, we're talking somewhere around 2013-ish, 2013, 2014. And so what we decided is, okay, let's do a JV, and we're going to organize. It was a women's health event, and this was my first, I guess, realization of how powerful this is when done right. And we thought, we made a short list. So we said, okay, we found a local fitness studio. We found a local Whole Foods place. We found a local naturopath. We found a local, almost like a holistic beautician. We found a local podiatrist. And there was 2 or 3 other businesses that escaped me at the moment. But we had about 8 businesses that we found, local inside of our area. And so we reached out to each of them and we organized meetings with them. And going into those meetings, my mindset was always very clear. My mindset was, don't go into this meeting with what's in it for me. Okay, so we would like to come into a spinal screening. We would like to come to your audience and do a talk for your audience. No, no, no. If this was me going into my business, someone coming into my business, I would be excited if I could see, okay, well, what have they got in it for me? So you're coming into my business now, I'm like, great, I'll have a meeting with you. I'll give up some of my most precious asset, time. And on the back of that, I want to see, if it's all about you, and that's not going to be very synergistic to me. But if you're like, have thought about me and what's in it for me, that's going to be much more appealing. So I went to all these meetings about what can we do for them. So the local fitness studio, well, we have a core value around exercise, and we believe that training and movement is one of the core pillars of staying healthy. So we're looking for a great place that we can establish a relationship and start referring people to. Okay. The local nutritionist, same thing. The local insert, whatever it is, it was the same thing. It was all about, okay, how can we help them? What can we do for them? So once we earned their trust, on the back of that, we organized and said, hey, why don't we run a women's health night? And on the women's health night, let's all have a booth. So the goal is, let's get 200 people to the women's health night. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to all promote to our databases. So you as the fitness studio owner, you will promote to your database. You as the naturopath nutritionist, you will promote to your beauty clinic, you will promote to yours. And I put together all the email campaigns, so I'll be like, make it easy for them. So here's the campaigns, here's how we send, here's when we send, and here's the page that everyone's going to register through, so we can see the registrations coming through. And the goal is really simple. If there was 8 businesses that are involved in this, and everyone got 25 of their people there, that means that I would have 175 people that are potential prospects. You would have 175 people that are potential prospects. Every single person would. And so we ran that first women's health evening, and it was a major success. I can't remember now. I couldn't tell you now because I simply can't remember what the number was, but I remember that it was a full night. And we had basically, everyone had a stall. It was a 2.5 hour event, I think. Everyone had a stall, and everyone had, the ones that wanted had stage time. Now, what I realized quickly as well is, of the 8, 5 would not speak, just through fear of speaking, which was a great opportunity for the others. 3 would speak. Of one of those 3, I was one of them. So we set it up in a way where, okay, they had 20-minute speaking time, and the second people had 20 minutes speaking time, and then I spoke last for 20, 25 minutes. And again, I can't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere around maybe 35 to 40 new patients we signed up from that event. And that was the first example. And everybody was stoked, right? All the business was stoked. Everyone was synergizing together, had a really great time. And then, we ran further events in the back of that. But that was the first lesson I learned about the importance of networking and going into a relationship with how can I help serve you? What can we do for you? And through that energy and attitude, it actually ended up being beneficial for us as well. Yeah.
I love that, Bobby. And I do have a practice that operates in our school district. And like what Bobby just said there is like, what's in it for you, like the person that I'm establishing a relationship with. When I said like some of these relationships you're not going to like call in or leverage necessarily for years, that was one where I went and gave time in the school district. I volunteered for things. I'd go in and teach to a science class, likely the 16-year-olds in the science class learning about the nervous system probably don't have the pull over their parents of who they choose for the chiropractor, but at least I'm talking to them about chiropractic. I would give my time going in to do these things, right? And down the road, I had established myself in a way that I had established other relationships in the community. And I felt like I could cut to the chase with the superintendent to say, hey, this is what we do. And I think bringing chiropractic into the school district would be something that would be of benefit to your staff, maybe down the road, to the students. But let's just talk about the staff first. Everybody's stressed and, et cetera. Right. So we open that door to this conversation by just having a very direct conversation about like, how could I benefit you? Because I see these problems. And if you listen into like most companies' problems, chiropractic is a very great solution for a lot of the things they've got going on. They just don't know it's called chiropractic, but you have to be in the room to hear what's going on first. There has to be a trust factor there to hear so that they even want to like tell you what's going on and have you have an opportunity to like respond back. Right. So because that trust factor was there and that networking had been there for years, now we're at a place where we have a very large practice that's operating out of a Division I school district, bringing chiropractic in for staff and students, in a way now that's like our new patients literally come from the district paperwork, sending it home to mom and dad saying like, get your kid adjusted at school. Like this is like mind blowing, right? But this is why I say like, I think there's so much opportunity for the chiropractic profession to expand in these type of places where you can have direct conversations with people of influence within your community, whether that's an employer, a school district, or, things I haven't even thought about yet, where then their stamp of approval opens up this doorway to a ton of people who are now very much more likely to, to choose to become new, chiropractic patients because of like who the gatekeeper was, right?
Yep, absolutely. And how did you get to that gatekeeper in the first place?
Yeah, because I already had the relationship established because I was a mentor in the district. I poured in some extra time into students there. And so we knew of each other and she knew that my name had like been around in the community doing things for a while. Like I think I had been practicing for 5 years already before I really had that like aha of like, I could help her. And by helping her, I didn't come in it saying like, oh, this is going to grow my practice. I said like, I could bring chiropractic to you. If you're interested in this, let's have a deeper conversation. And she was.
But she knew you, sorry to interrupt you, but she knew you first because of work that you were doing for the school free on the back of your time. And so on the back of that, she developed first of all, knowing about you, and then that's how you guys established the trust. So when you brought her something that's a monetization thing, there was already the trust needed to take that to the next level. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, right. She knew that I was like, she knew who I was already, and she knew, that I had pure intentions for like this not being just a ploy to like sell you something.
Yes. And there it is, guys. So that's what I'm getting to. So whenever you move into any networking relationship, this is why I say you move into it with how can you benefit and help that person, that organization, that individual. Always it starts with that. Okay. And coming from a place of, again, authenticity and being genuine about it, because that's how you do it, trust. And then trust can lead to something which is more favorable or you can monetize in the future, right?
Yes. So good, Bobby.
So tell me this then, just a quick, dirty down list about, all right, what are some top kind of networking things that you see? So school is one. I'm going to chime in and say we've had great relationships with gyms, right? What else? What are some good people to reach out to and try and establish a meeting? Let's chat. I'd love to learn more about what you guys do. What have you found in your experience good networking opportunities?
Yeah. A gym being a great one for sure. Yoga studio, massage therapist, other like-minded practitioners in your area, maybe an acupuncturist or a functional med MD, like people who already understand some of the language we're speaking and want to help their patients have some of these avenues as well. And so maybe putting on even a networking event in your practice if you're newer, that's like not being afraid to invite some of these other professionals in and having conversations, even if you don't necessarily think that you align with some of what they do, just not being afraid to open those doors to have conversations. You know, sometimes it's like, we've had orthopedists send people in here that always blew my mind when I was like, I wouldn't probably send them your direction, you know, for a consultation for surgery, generally speaking. However, like we've had people that have been sent in here because of maybe one or two networking relationships with not even necessarily the MD, someone that we just know that works within the practice. And then somehow they like send a patient in here. So that's part of what I want you to understand is that like, you don't know who are going to be some of your best kept secrets in your community until you meet them, right? And so like, there's no hacking that until you've just met a sheer amount of people in your area and start to understand like, who are the movers and shakers, or who am I going to really vibe with like our branding and their branding, or maybe that you have great results with them and they own a company down the road. And now that, you know, that door gets open for you. So you kind of got to just go through those logistics.
Yep, love it. I love it. So there you go, guys. You heard it here. Networking and outside opportunities. You never know where it's going to lead. Like in Lona's case, it's led to something which is monumental, probably never on the radar. But I think at the end of the day, you know, when you put a human mind in four walls, that mind just rots away. And if you think about in society, what's one of the ways that we do that? We do that jail. You put someone in four walls, right? And the worst part of the jail is what? Solitary confinement. Even further, you have no interactions at all. You know, that's a typical example of it. So what's the opposite effect of that? The opposite effect of that is getting out, meeting, greeting, and getting out, enjoying the freedom that you have and enjoy the opportunity that you have and realize that it is an opportunity. So if you're hearing this and you're a scale doc, you can delegate someone on your team new business development, and their role is every week to go and establish 1, 2, 3 new relationships, and then to maintain old ones, like Lona said. You know, if you're a build doc, you have more time, less resource sometimes, or you're a launch doc, you have a lot of time and less resource. The beautiful thing about what Lona's talking about here is it's absolutely free as it comes to money. Right? So you got nothing to wait for, guys. Make sure in Q4, end of this year, set yourself a target and say, along with the goals that we have, we want to establish at least X amount of new relationships. Start simple, 3, 1 per month. We want to go out and establish a relationship with a local gym that we can have a cross relationship with. Maybe it's going to lead to an event later down the line. Okay. It could be a nutrition, something go through with nutrition, either a naturopath, it can be a Whole Foods place. And then the third can be something really simple and easy again, another allied health professional, right? So it can be anyone that thinks aligned, but go and meet people and you'd be amazed at where it ends up taking you.
Thanks, Bobby. Great advice.
Thank you for bringing this one up because it's something that's often very overlooked, but it's something that's extremely powerful as you've observed and you've seen countless amounts of times with practices as well. I love it. Cool. All right, team. So we will catch you guys next week. Please, if you enjoyed, guys, podcast, if you're loving this, go and leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. And if you want any further help or support, or you've got questions, whether they're tactical questions or whether they're vision-related questions, please reach out to either myself or Dr. Lona. We're more than happy to jump on, have a conversation with you guys and see if it's something that we can guide you on or give you some advice on, or at the very least, give you clarity on. Until next time, have a fantastic day and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, please click the links in the show notes to schedule a call.